Hello everybody and welcome to the first of our In Place of War Changemaker Summit sessions. This session is very, very timely. It's called Creativity Conquers COVID, and we're bringing you some incredible stories of responses to COVID from across the global south, primarily across Africa, Latin America and the Middle East. Welcome to everybody watching on Facebook Live, our website and in Zoom. This is the first time we've done this, so it's very, very exciting for us. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat and we'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can in the second half of this session. I am Ruth and I'm from an organisation called In Place of War. We work with creativity in places of conflict. More recently, our work has changed and essentially we work with this incredible network of the people you see in front of us. There are many more, but these are some of the remarkable people that form our Changemaker network, people who are using music and theatre and dance and hip hop to make positive change in their communities. So I'm just going to ask each one of them to introduce themselves, starting with Adrian.
Hi everyone, I'm Adrian Sabogal from Colombia. My organization is called Marimbea, and we work with Afro-Colombians from the Pacific Coast. And we do design and improve cultural experiences in order to give opportunities for the people in the Pacific Coast, showing their amazing culture with the dance, gastronomy, music, and rites and believings, spiritual believings. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, gracias, Adrian. Handing over now to Mambila.
Hi everybody, my name is Mambila Makeza. I'm a director at Trackside Creative in Soweto, South Africa. We are a creative hub, basically facilitating and affording creatives in our community to develop and present their work. It's primarily music based, so we have a lot of backyard concerts and recordings like happening in the space. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mambila. Next up, Shadi. Shadi, I think we're missing.
Hello everyone again. My name is Shadi Nashabe. I am co-founder for UTOPIA organization. We work in Tripoli and Beirut, Lebanon on community development and youth empowerment projects.
Thank you so much. Next up, Valeria.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Valeria Duque. I'm from Medellin, Colombia. I'm representing Elemento Ilegal. So we are a hip hop movement based in Medellin, Colombia, and we work with three main purposes, which are art, resistance, and dignity. So thank you for watching us.
Thank you, Valeria. Handing over now to Camilo.
Hi everyone, my name is Camilo. I'm from Tiuna El Fuerte, specified from Radio Verdura, and it's a mobile sound system around in the road from Caracas, bringing music and art for many people during the lockdown. So,
thank you. And then David.
Hello, my name is David Guardado, and I'm the director of Frecuencia. And what we do is that we go to vulnerable places and we share the hip hop experience, and we use the therapeutic beat making to start healing process, empowering the youth, and have fun. So during the COVID lockdown, we change a little bit, and we even cook for the community. So amazing things happen when you do. That's something that I have learned here. So thank you, Ruth. My admiration, and thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you all so much. It's so amazing to have you all together in one place. We're going to show a short film now that kind of, I think for me, really sums up the magic of what's been happening in probably one of the hardest times that we faced globally together. Obviously, the communities that we work in within Place of War are already facing some kinds of kind of challenges, maybe due to gang affected communities, etc. But COVID was something that sort of hit everybody universally, but maybe in many different ways. So what we did as an organisation is we brought together the opportunity for our Changemaker network to come together twice a week and let us know what was happening in their communities. And then we did some incredible partnerships with the music industry, Beatport, Insomniac, Native Instruments, and we raised some money in which we were able to kind of give small grants across this network. And for me, it just blew my mind with how people used those grants and how they responded to the needs of their community. So we're going to watch this film. If you're joining in the Zoom room and you want to watch the film, the link is pasted in the chat. And yeah, we'll join you back for some questions after the film. In Place of War is a global organisation that uses arts and creativity as a tool for positive social change. The COVID-19 outbreak and subsequent lockdown has had a devastating impact on some of the most vulnerable communities in the global south. The grassroots cultural change makers we have been working with have transformed their organisations during the pandemic to support their local communities, and this is some of their stories.
Hello, I'm Shadi Nashabe. I'm from Lebanon and I am a Lebanese activist and co-founder of UTOPIA organization. Usually work on community engagement and advocacy activities. We do different sort of community service programs in the different areas, and at the same time work on advocacy through using creative art to advocate for the Lebanese priorities and needs. 2020, the COVID-19 crisis started in the country. There was several measurements from the Lebanese government, but on health level, but on socio-economic level, there was no support from the Lebanese government to the poor families. We got funds from in Place of War to support several hundred families in food boxes. We distributed those food boxes in the poorest city in the Mediterranean. It's called Tripoli, Lebanon.
بقدر اشتغل بس انا في عندي 3 اولاد بقلب البيت صغار بده مين يدير بالهم عليهم. هذا الشيء صعب كثير علي، يعني ما بقدر اترك اولادي انا وروح اشتغل لطعمي، وهذا اللي مضايقني وما عم بقدر طعميهم.
What effect does the COVID-19 have on you? Because you say it's making the people sick around there and that you can't live like that. There's never enough food in the house, so that's why she comes still here.
The Cape Flats is a gang-affected area of Cape Town with huge unemployment and all living in extreme poverty. There is no food provision for children in the Cape Flats, especially during the pandemic. Ralph Bowers has set up 10 community kitchens feeding over 3,000 children every day. Our Cape Flats changemakers have also been working on creating positive recreational spaces alongside the young people.
In Lavender Hill, and we are the guardians of the national treasure, and we're busy with the transformation and the upliftment of this community, and we're busy sort of making the spaces where the kids are playing a little bit better, more positive spaces. Come and have a look. Jungle gym, so that we can have more positive spaces in this community. So, hello kiddies, hello children. So thank you so much.
Camión 350, una planta eléctrica de 6.5 kVA, 20 litros de gasolina, un DJ, un maestro de ceremonia, cámaras y acción.
As well as feeding their communities, we've also seen our changemakers provide for their communities in other, more creative ways. Arts organisation Tiuna El Fuerte have created Radio Verdura, a mobile sound system and radio station which travels the streets playing music and sharing messages over the sound system from loved ones across the community, helping people feel less isolated in a city where most families live in 19-storey tower blocks.
Hi there, my name is Valeria Duque. I'm a member of Elemento Ilegal. We are an artistic and cultural group in Medellin City, Colombia. We have a trajectory of 12 years now, but basically our main activities are located in El Faro.
Este barrio está a partir de 1995 y es creado por personas que vienen víctimas del desplazamiento de otras partes de Colombia.
Se va a ver mucha gente que quizás no tiene un trabajo estable, que viven de un trabajo del diario. Entonces, si hoy trabajan, quizás y mañana si se enferman hoy, mañana no pueden ir a trabajar, entonces ese día lo perdieron, no van a tener plática.
Elemento Ilegal are a community organisation using hip-hop as a tool of social change in the gang-affected community of Comuna 13, Medellin, Colombia. We've seen organisations that are used to running hip-hop dance classes, graffiti workshops and hip-hop production classes come together to completely transform what they're doing and to feed their communities in a time where their community is facing starvation.
One of the most important things that the quarantine brought to our team, to our group, and it's reflected how strong the relationship that we have as a group with the community, and how the community itself learned that solidarity makes life easier and better.
I am Adrián Sabogal, leader of Marimbea. Marimbea is an organization based here in Colombia, and we work with Afro-Colombian communities from the Pacific coast. We design cultural experiences for anybody who wants to approach to their beautiful culture, and we do it through music. The way we help these communities of the Pacific coast is by providing them, creating a collaborative network worldwide for helping them to grow their cultural businesses.
Esto que está aquí que ustedes me han traído, que me han mandado, yo lo invierto en mi trabajo, porque yo como trabajo con mi marisco y yo compro mi canastica de pez y de ahí estoy vendiendo y lo que me va quedando, mi ganadita para comer. Compro mi libra de arroz, mi platanito, mi coco, mi aceite. Bueno.
The COVID times has brought different problems in the community. We had the opportunity to create a festival in which we promote these artists, and we get to pay them and to support the older musicians in the towns of the Pacific coast. So that's the way we have been helping in these difficult times.
My name is Caesar Sasim Tokwe. Some people know me as DJ World Effect. I'm a DJ and aspiring producer.
In Soweto, South Africa, we've seen our partners Trackside Creative, before COVID-19, running as a cultural and event space and recording studio, come together to form Loafing Around, a pop-up community bakery supplying their local area with bread deliveries. Frecuencia is a hip-hop organisation in El Salvador that during the COVID-19 crisis has transformed itself into a community kitchen distributing food parcels to vulnerable families. For in place of war, the pandemic has highlighted the role of civil society in a time of extreme crisis. It's demonstrated the resourcefulness, resilience and responsiveness of our network of creative change makers in these challenging times. Each has responded to the specific needs of their communities, using creative leadership to save lives. They are all examples of changing social distancing into social connectivity.
Okay, well, welcome back. It's always an absolute pleasure to see that film. It fills me with joy. I think there's three words that I always think of when I see that film and see these wonderful people is the ability to be responsive, the ability to be resourceful, and the ability to build resilience. And I think that's what this film demonstrates. It's looking at what's happening in the communities and really building incredible responses that really impact on people's lives. So again, if you've just joined us, we're joined by this incredible network of change makers based all over the world who've been, really responding to the crisis of COVID in different ways. And I wanted to start by asking a question to everybody, each of you to answer. Really, we explored this in some of the Zoom calls that we set up at the very beginning of when COVID really hit. But could you talk about how COVID impacted specifically on your communities? I'm going to start with Adrian.
Thank you, Ruth. And well, for giving a little bit of context, the communities in the Pacific Coast are mostly Afro-Colombians, and they have been struggling long time ago with violence problems, with lack of resources, basic needs, health, you name it. And the thing we were doing with them is to create these cultural experiences so they can have a different way of income, different from performing or just giving a lesson, but just inviting people to live the culture as they live it and vibrate with that sense. So we, in the first place, we had to cut all the activities we were doing because all the experiences we did before COVID were presential, like with real people around and gathering and playing together and being very the opposite of social distance. So being very together, sharing and vibrating with the gastronomy, with dance, with the music. And of course we had to stop with that, and that of course stopped with the incomes we were generating for them. That stopped, and some of other activities they got for their living stopped as well, like the trading between they live from fishing, from growing things, and they live from trading these products between towns. So it was a very big problem not having the possibility of trading these products because of the restrictions of mobility. So I think that was the biggest struggle, and violence sadly didn't stop during the lockdown. So they just took the violent people just took the opportunity of people being locked down to kill more social leaders, and because they were in their houses, afraid from COVID, and it was like one problem on top of COVID. So that's mostly what the way that COVID affected the communities in the Pacific Coast of Colombia.
Thank you, Adrian. And I guess, David, maybe there is a similarity with the communities in El Salvador. I know you talked to me about violence not stopping in the pandemic. In fact, maybe it getting worse.
Yes, and also other points that we share with Adrian, not only the lockdowns, but the close of the economy, because the government literally said that nobody can fish, nobody can move, the roads are closed. So Garita Palmera is a place that they live from the fishing. So the economy, and some people, they just go to fish and they eat the fish. It's not like they sell it and but no, they actually, that's their food. So that was kind of the one of the crazy parts. And also that we were hit by a huge rain season. So on top of the COVID situation with the lockdowns and all of that, with the road closed and the economy closed, we also have the rain. And what happened here is that sometimes the people build the houses on, like in the hills, and because you cut all the trees, suddenly the hills just came down with all the houses. It's like one specific case that we have this week. And that was another part of the crazy moment of the COVID and the rain. And if we talk about the violence, it stops a little bit because the government is having deals with the gangs to reduce the violence. But during that time, you can still hear some of the acts of violent acts in different parts of the country. But yes, was how the situation was a little bit here in El Salvador.
And I guess, thank you for that, David. I guess, Camilo, what was the situation like in Caracas? Because my memory of Caracas is people in very, very high-rise buildings, people, you know, it's a very, very densely packed city. So how did things figure in Caracas?
Well, like in other world, the decrease or cessation of the productive and recreational activities, you know, make a lot of social tension, you know, because, you know, the people don't have the things to the subsistence needed. So, and they can go to the theaters or a concert. They can do a party. And the other things is a very special context of Venezuela. We got a lot of faith with the service now, public service, like energy, like domestic gas. So we got an economic blockade now with the Trump administration. So this is difficult now. We got a problem with to put gasoline now. We don't produce a lot of gasoline to our cars, so we depend now to the import of that product. So we are blocked with the Trump administration, and it's very difficult, you know, to translate to one part or another. So that makes a lot of tension in the home of the people of Caracas, and like another world. But here is a little bit special, you know, the particular things, like I say. And you know, the people need recreational activities and the substance of the people, you know, need like the economic activity are, like, you know, down, really down, like another world. So it's really difficult now, the situation. But yes, it's like I think with the Colombian people of the Pacific, we're sharing that feeling of community, you know, that all they sharing the music, and in the ghettos, you know, it's not it's like a collective in all the neighborhoods. So it's not a lot of social distance into the mountains, you know, in the barrios in Caracas. So that is a little difficult because have a lot of people sick with COVID, not like another countries, but yes, we got a lot of people from the ghetto, you know, sick because they don't have a social distance there. They don't understand that because of what they're doing in collective. So that's our reality now.
And I guess Valeria, that kind of probably is a very similar reality in the neighborhoods in Medellin, right?
Exactly, that specifically I was thinking about is not something that hit the coast. It's something that I think we can all be agreed that the social inequity came harsh. We felt a hit so hard in all the communities. I would say in the very impact first that we had in Elemento Ilegal, yes, was stopping the activities that we had with the community. But talking specifically about the people in the neighborhood, and as I mentioned in some opportunities before, most of the 80% of the community works in an informal jobs. So when COVID arrived and with the first lockdown, we were enabled to go out. So people were enabled and allowed to work and gain daily sustainability. So this is one of the most important things that I would say that as an impact that we had, and that applied to everyone, even in the cities and either in the peripheries and in different countries. Like is more the more vulnerable communities were hit and impacted. And but again, I also want to reinforce some words from David in El Salvador, that the community working together made a different and a complete different story on how we face the pandemic and where are we standing right now.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Thank you, Valeria. I wanted to now go to Mambila to find out the situation initially in Soweto.
Yeah, people, we generally didn't find it very, very easy to, to internalize what was going on. And we understood that there was a pandemic, that we were faced with a pandemic, but then how the lockdown was rolled out, it definitely seemed like a kind of assault on, the poor in general, and also just people trying to, manifest and actualize themselves on their own terms, So a lot of the trade in my communities is very informal. So when you tell someone not to go sell vegetables, which is an essential what they've been doing for the last 20, 30 years, to not be able to do that anymore, and you don't even have a time frame as to how long that kind of situation is going to be, that presents a very impossible situation for people. So how people responded to that was, there was quite a lot more tension, on people that we had to find a way to navigate around with each other, because from that frustration was built a lot of tension and no outlet, and with that being said, there's other informal traders such as ourselves. We are the creators in this community, and suddenly we are told that to be able to express ourselves, not to go out, and social distancing, when in fact we are very, very social people. That is like in our DNA, So when you tell people not to be able to do that, it just created a very it was just a complete mindfuck for everybody. And even right now, we're still in level 1, and things have switched up so much that we can't. It's very difficult to actually determine what the future holds, But it's the situation became quite tense. The situation is quite tense because people are picking up the pieces, and having to. Literally everyone around has had to reinvent themselves, in order to basically survive, So all of this right now is just like us figuring things out, figuring each other out all over again, And it hasn't been very easy. I mean, response to, the math to what the authority, quote unquote, whatever, hasn't been very cooperative as well, because like I mentioned, that it hasn't, the situation hasn't quite internalized. I mean, even in the communication of what's going on, like on television, we get all these numbers, of how many people have been infected, how many people have died and whatnot. But it hasn't still hasn't quite struck home, you know. Everyone is still trying to just, you know, get a meal at the end of the day, you know. It's still like, you know, yeah, the bread and butter issues over, you know, the pandemic, you know, at this point, and having cut that off, you know, a lot of people lost jobs, a lot of people, you know, a lot of things have happened in this, and it's like, there's no kind of recourse, because also as all of this is happening, people are stealing money as well. There's a lot of looting happening right in front of our eyes, you know. We know, you know, some funds have been, you know, released to, you know, to remedy certain situations, or, you know, but we can see that those monies are not filtered. Nothing ever gets filtered down to the people on the ground, you know, and then yet just actually, you know,
So Mambila,
yes.
It's really interesting that you raised all those points. As everyone's been talking, I made some notes about the kind of impact of COVID. And what's really interesting is how little people have mentioned COVID itself. It's been starvation, the weather conditions, an increase in violence, assault on the poor, the state response has been bad. There's no freedom for expression. People can't be how they want to be, how they need to be, looting, and then funds misused. But I saved Shadi till the end because I think, I don't know, I mean, I guess we all know Shadi's in Lebanon, and not only did Shadi have to deal with the consequences of COVID, but also one of the most severe blasts that we've seen in the history of our lifetimes. So Shadi, how have things been for you in terms of the consequences of what's been happening
in Beirut blast?
With COVID in the initial period of COVID, and then how that's kind of changed, I guess, or increased in severity because of the blast.
2020 is one of the most difficult years since the establishment or since the independence of Lebanon. We had three events, bad events happened in Lebanon. In November, we had started the economic crisis in Lebanon, where until now, around 50% unemployed in the country. We had COVID-19, where the government needs to take some acts to such lockdown, and until now we have those measurements by the Lebanese government, but at the same time they cannot give for the Lebanese population or for the Lebanese citizens any kind of support on humanitarian level. And as per United Nations, in Lebanon, around 45% are under the line of poverty. The third event was the Beirut blast, where more than 200 died, 1,800 apartment units was destroyed, and around 1,000 businesses they stopped their work in Beirut. So those three events destroyed the economy of the country, and at the same time, as I mentioned, Lebanon is passing in an economic crisis. We have now no government. The government resigned after the Beirut blast, and now there are some reactions to create a new government, to take some measures regarding the support from IMF and the World Bank to stabilize a little the Lebanese economy. So Lebanon, and now today the Minister of Health was talking about maybe we'll have a total lockdown in the next few days, which will increase the tension in the country, especially that even the people who are working now, they are getting half salaries because of the economic crisis and because of the time of opening the shops and closing the shops. So until now, there is no clear strategy from the Lebanese government to tackle the issues of from COVID-19, and which is regarding the violence. Lebanon, in this year, we have the high rate of violence and higher rate of people killing themselves. I will give you an example. During our work on the ground, doing awareness in the beginning of the COVID-19, the people were staying on the ground in the marginalized areas. We want to die in COVID, but not seeing our children die because they are not eating. So yes, so this is the situation currently in Lebanon.
Thank you, Shadi. Yeah, it's just really challenging everywhere, isn't it? It's been a very, very difficult thing for people to navigate. But in a positive sense, all you guys have responded and all you guys have done remarkable things. So I just wanted to ask each of you just quickly to talk about how you understood what you needed to do and how you made it happen, because I know that many of you, you've not got an abundance of resources. You guys are just there in the middle of your community trying to make things better. And I'm going to start with Shadi, because I know I was really inspired by how you were able to galvanize what could be described as one of the biggest groups of volunteers, particularly after the blast. So how do you do that? How do you actually bring all those people together to help?
First of all, I want to thank you because in the same day of Beirut blast, you do an initiative and to support our initiative on the ground, and which was very helpful for us and give us not only on financial level but on motivation level, having this network and having you supporting us on the ground, which was very supportive. So first of all, I would like to thank you and thank In Place of War team and all the change makers. Now on the ground, our priority in the first few days was people in the hospitals needs blood. So the first 3 days was for the injured people, because we had more than 3,000 persons was injured due to the Beirut blast. Then we started our initiative in removing all the trashes and the damages from the ground, and to start mapping where we can interfere to helping the most marginalized people and the elderly people to come back to their house before the winter season. So we started in cooperation with In Place of War in one of the buildings in the neighborhood of the Beirut port. And at the same time, we are doing side initiatives for specific houses, not totally damaged, to help people to come back to their house. Until now, we have around 65 apartment units finished. And in the same time, we have the building helping 8 families coming back in the buildings that it was in the video that was shared. So and at the same time now, what we are doing to help the small businesses to work again and supporting them in some business development coaching, and at the same time supporting financially and doing rehabilitation their businesses to help even the business community to work again.
So inspiring. It's so amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Shadi. I want to go to Camilo next, because they're a very different response to any of the other responses from any of the organizations, and I loved it. Can you tell us more about how you decided to do it, and also can you tell me maybe a story of how it might have impacted on, if you've got any stories about how it's impacted on people that you are reaching in your community?
Okay, so yes, we decide go out with the Radio Verdura, because this is a project have like almost 15 years, but it's perfect, doing during that time, because it's safe, because it's a drop, around for the Caracas neighborhood. We're searching the spot having a big building around. So we transformed that the windows and the balconies into the theater seats and start to playing some music, invite and some musician to playing live music to the apartment, and we sharing our cell phone to receive the text message from the people. And what's so great because the people start to have an interaction with us, and we send a message for the neighborhood and start to dance for in the balconies, in the windows. So it's so nice because we it's like a way of don't lose the human contact, even if we have a social distance. And with all that tension I mentioned before, we're living in the Caracas neighborhood. That was like a little sunrise of happiness, you know, and the people start to share a lot of information about the community, about the special plan they plan. So was so great and so grateful for us, it's like the thing you do. Some people look like don't have any importance, but actually, yes, we think that it's really important. Start to doing that kind of things. So it's okay, sharing a love and peace message during that time,
No, I mean, I think this is one of the things that, obviously people need to survive, people need to eat. There are all these needs, but mental health in this pandemic across the world has suffered in such an incredibly profound way. I know that I felt it personally. I know that we all have, right? We're social creatures. We're not used to being like in this way, in these cages, and so I think that project for me is just so fantastic to bring people joy, to make people feel socially connected rather than socially isolated. Just an incredible like innovation. I'm going to move to Mambila to talk about bread.
How we responded to can you please repeat the question? Just want to make sure that's right.
Just to talk about your response, like how you decided what you were going to do to respond to like the most kind of significant impact that you felt in your community.
Okay. Yeah, like also just as you basically mentioned, like things were, quite tense. Things have been quite tense. So in making people feel, united and, considered, we basically went back to, a basic, which is food, and us being the bakers in our community now, the delivery of bread is also like on a day-to-day basis. This is much closer to our immediate community, and with that, we are, being, from being your musicians and now actually, preparing food for your community. It actually highlighted a lot of things I think as creators we took for granted, and that is like that immediate human connection with your community, with the people that you stay with. You could be doing all this great, amazing stuff, dancing, making music and the like. It only goes, we found for a very long time, it would only, be like preaching to a choir, where you are only just appealing to another community of, a smaller community, whereas the people that uphold your culture, your subculture, are the people that you live with, your neighbors that, see you wake up and go to bed every day. And once you start communicating with them, and bread is the most absolutely amazing, catalyst for you to, be in touch with the people that be at your show when you host them on a Thursday night, but they can hear from, 2 blocks away or whatnot, and get to find out what it is that they're thinking, and, how it is that they are, because we're all essentially staying together. So if we are like in touch, you know, with what each of us is doing, how each of us is doing, things can fall apart quite easily because you don't have that support of your immediate community who are your family. So us now becoming that, you know, that conduit to conversations, you know, through, you know, literally breaking bread, you know, we are now afforded another status, you know, we are a much more important status, and that is of, you know, a provider of food, you know, only like this time if there's a soundtrack to it, you know, and that helps bring people a lot, you know, we've seen people come together over the subject, you know, over the new phenomenon, because we're very, you know, kind of, Ruth, you've been here, there's not a lot of, you know, there's the corner shop around here, but there's not a lot of other economic activity happening around here. So there's that kind of thing, even beyond economics, just that phenomenon of, you know, a group of creatives coming every morning, day to day, delivering, you know, freshly bread. It uplifted, you know, the spirits were uplifted, you know, and it generated quite a lot of ability, and we're quite proud of, you know, we're quite chuffed to see happening. You know.
Well, it's that thing, isn't it, about breaking bread and about, you know, things that bring people together communally, and, you know, music is a great magnet to bring people together, and so is food, and you're sort of fusing the two there, which is amazing. And I guess that moves me on to ask David, because I guess, David, your work has been very much around food response as well.
Yes, and what happened was that when I got into the Changemaker group, I started seeing what were the work that you were doing, and what happens between us, or at least that's how I live it. You inspire me. So when I start finding that people like this other friend that we have, that he cooks for almost 3,000 people daily, I was like, what? Because in the community, in Garita Palmera,
I should just reference what you were talking about, David, maybe just to reference. So I think everyone in this group has been inspired by a guy called Ralph in Lavender Hill in the Cape Flats in South Africa, who I guess at this point has probably made 500,000 meals in his community through numerous community kitchens that he set up almost overnight. And that really has inspired everybody in this group and people who beyond this group, you know, hip hop collectives in Colombia setting up community kitchens. So yeah, back to you, David, but I just wanted to name check Ralph so we don't forget him.
Ralph. I'm gonna even write his name now.
So
Ralph,
get it written down.
Yeah, Ralph really inspired me because one of the persons in the community, he started studying to become a chef. So he actually graduated, and he's like a reference for the community. So a lot of people is studying and all of that. So because my mom and they already work on the community, giving alphabetation workshops and all of that, they were ahead of me. They already built the kitchen. So when I saw about Ralph, I was like, hey, we can do that. Max can cook and we can bring the community. We can do it. We can, and then we just did it. We just did it. And it's amazing because now we have another thing to do in the community with professionals, with the same reference of the community. I don't know. Yeah, bro. It's I just can thank you, all of you, for sharing, because believe me, I apply what I learned. And
isn't it, this idea, just think it, do it. We think it, we do. Let's do it. I'm gonna go now to Valeria. Tell us about what you guys did.
Okay, So I'm glad to hear that we were very similar. We had very similar responses in different locations in the world. So this is amazing. Sometimes we can imagine a world where you don't have to go directly and think about food, because it would be a dream to all the people have this guaranteed in their lives. But this isn't the reality, and this is basically what we faced. So Elemento Ilegal responded in the same way. We identified that was so important to at least guarantee the food for the community. So we launched a network media campaign in our social media, Instagram, Facebook, all of that, asking for people solidarity as well. And we catch a lot of funds to buy nourishment packages, complete nourishment packages. We also had the opportunity to create alliances with other groups within the city. We also had the IPO support in this campaign. We had also the opportunity to go to talk with the people in house by house. We made a census to identify what we have, people, vulnerability people in conditions of vulnerability in front of COVID, for example, pregnant women, for example, major old people and something like that. So we made this, and at the same time, we had the chance to talk one by one and face people needs and understand people needs in the neighborhood, in their houses. We also create and how can I say this? We made stronger the alliances that we had with the leaders of the community. We worked together. We had this specific in front group that received the nourishment packages that distributed house by house, because we were very carefully in regards of the security measures. So we try to call people by the phone, like for example, come and get your nourishment packages, instead of having a line of 100 of more people, just to guarantee the social, the security measures. So this is something that we made in response of the COVID and the lockdown. We also use the art, and we also use our social media to show as well, and a kind of announce and show the lack of the government action in this situation, because we really felt it. Like, we really felt it. Is where you notice it the most, in these specific or these critical situations. And just to close, to share that we at the end achieved to 380 families with more than 1,500 nourishment packages during the months, because we had the longest lockdown in the world in Colombia, and this is not a joke, it's real. So we had a lot of work to do.
So amazing, so inspiring, Valeria, so inspiring. And I know all of your day job, your normal work, your arts work, which is already mind-blowing, but like just how you've all been able to kind of go, right, okay, this is what we now do. We're now in our kitchen, it's like, Adrienne.
Okay, I'm excited to hear one more time the histories of every one of you, and I share the feelings with David, like of inspiration, and with Valeria of inspiration. But I have to admit, I was a little bit scared also because I was like, no way, these people is doing all this, and I don't know, maybe I am not doing enough, So for me, it was a very, like I also have to thank In Place of War, because it was a very important starting point for changing my mindset, like because of course we weren't able to make the experiences in person, and with the funding of In Place of War, we started a festival, because we are always wanted to connect the younger musicians in the Pacific Coast with the older ones, and we are trying to put together some opportunities for every one of them, like not only for the younger, but also for the veteran musicians. So in order to do that, it was very difficult to have the older musicians in these towns of the Pacific Coast with a lack of good connection of internet being connected and learn how to do this. So we invented this festival through the funding of In Place of War, where we paid the younger musicians to play, to perform, because they knew how to do it and they had like more experience in this field. And through the festival, we got some donations from people who were attending to the festival, and we doubled the initial funding of In Place of War. And what we did was to give the older musicians that depend also, as David was saying, like on fishing and all these day-by-day activities, and they weren't able to do that. So we funded them directly. We just gave them money, because sometimes they give some groceries or stuff, but they sometimes need to buy medicine. They need to help some, like a son or something. They have to deal with public services. They have to pay anything. So we just gave them money so they can solve any need they have during the lockdown. And the younger ones received a payment for the work they know how to do. And the most important thing of this was, for me, it was like crossing a mental barrier of what we can achieve with the virtual possibilities. So we started through these learning experiences, writing some proposals for grants, and we are now finishing one grant we won with the Ministry of Culture of Colombia to create some virtual experiences, not to replace our presential experiences, but to take to any house over the world this amazing beauty of the gastronomy, the dance, the music of the Pacific Coast. And after that, we achieved like a very big grant with USAID. So we are now working in a very huge project for having more opportunities for the musicians, the dancers, the cultural workers in the Pacific Coast. So I think it was a very important starting point of the festival, and that's mostly what we have been doing.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. David, did you put your hand in the air to ask something or say something? Or did I get that wrong? Did I read you wrong? I read you wrong. Okay, sorry. Wow. Okay, so
it's my sound of the...
Oh, your son. Oh, yeah. Okay, got you. Yeah, no, it's amazing. I know this work. I know what you guys do. You are always fighting for better opportunities in your communities, and it's just so remarkable to me how you pivoted what you do. And I guess I'm going to ask a few questions now, because they're coming unfortunately coming towards the end. We had a few questions on the chat. So I'm going to maybe direct some questions to each of you. The first one we've had from a participant in the chat watching from Manchester. They say, Camilo, we would like Radio Verdura in Manchester. Any tips for how we make this happen?
Yes, of course. Cool for us. Cool. You must have a little truck or a little vehicle, and have the sound system, a DJ, and something like to talk. You make a road. I recommend to you and trust a very good road with a lot of big building around. And you may have the permission of the authority of the mayor. I don't know who is there, so you must have that to don't have problem with police and anything, and you just do it. And of course you have to send me the experience. You have to record and send me that experience, because I would love to see that. but it's really easy. I don't know what is the how happened the things right there. I think it's a very different context, and so was a lot of interest in see that. So that's all.
Thank you, Camilo. I'm getting more messages through now. One participant has just said, can you please let everybody know how amazing and inspiring they are? And I think it is, I know your work, so I'm just kind of a bit like, yeah, you know, it's just these guys. But actually, for people who've not encountered you before, you guys are amazing and incredible. So thank you so much for sharing what you've been doing. I guess a question we've had on the chat, and also I was thinking about asking is, I'm going to direct this one at Mambila and David. You guys have incorporated food, and maybe Valeria as well. You guys have incorporated food into what you do now. Is that gonna continue beyond COVID? Is your creative offer gonna include food, baking, food, kitchens, etc.? Mambila first, maybe.
Sure, 100%. This is who we are now. We are the bakers, you know. We just happen to, you know, also love music. So we have, you know, this is for actually running the creative hub for the time that we have, over 7 years now, I think, counting. We have always been faced with the conundrum of, you know, the creative space at this point is not the strongest economically in our country. It's very difficult to make ends meet being an artist, you know, hence words like starving artists and all of that. We have figured a way out, you know, we have figured a way to keep doing what we love to do and also have a healthy, you know, cash flow, you know, foundation, you know, and it's not even when I mention cash flow, I'm not even talking about hundreds and thousands of rands, you know, which is our currency in our country. But just like that 20 rand to be able to buy your airtime, you know, or be able to catch that taxi to that next meeting, that kind of thing, you know, basic petty cash resource that keeps an organization, which we're learning, it keeps our organization moving to the next idea, to the next idea, and to the next idea, you know. So it's actually become a very important element to have, you know, in our activity. Every project has to have that attached in order for it to survive and be. It affords a sustainability, you know, in that we are not to scramble and be very desperate, you know, for even funding and things like that, because we've got our basics covered as an organization, you know. Initially, this project started off as us, you know, handing out, you know, as the activity, but demand will then grow, you know, and as demand grows, then you have to, you know, you accumulate overheads, and this is what takes care of that. I mean, it's, you know, the per unit, it's not a lot of money, it's, you know, but it becomes this numbers kind of game where you kind of see things shifting now that, you know, even your state of being, your state of creativity, your state of mind generally is is from a more relaxed standpoint, and you're able to execute things, you know, much better, you know, because you have that, you know, backing you. It's an actual foundation for everything that you do. You know, that's what it has become. The bakery has become the foundation for the recording studio, the printing, all these other activities that we've been doing over the years, but find ourselves hitting walls because there's just no money, you know what I mean? But now, at least now, there's that little bit of money that comes in every day. We're not even chasing that end of the week, end of the month, you know, a check. Just that little bit just to get us through the day is what we have now, and it's great. You know, the community is responding very nicely to it. It's just awesome. This is just exactly what we needed, you know?
This is it. I think for me,
so it's actually gone through.
What's really interesting, Mambila, just to interrupt for a sec, is that COVID, the terrible, you know, the terrible situation of COVID has kind of forced you to rethink what you do, and you've created a social enterprise that works. So unlike other people who are chasing funding, you guys have got something set up that means that you can be sustainable. You know, like you said, you use the word foundation for everything else. It's like, you know, people have to work out how to make these things work. And arts and music and hip hop is your bread and butter. But essentially your bread is now your bread and butter, if that makes sense. Your bakery is your bread and butter. And you've really managed to make that work. And I guess, David, if you could come in and say, you know, is this going to figure on your, is this going to figure in your, because your bread and butter is, you know, going into communities, working with technology, with music technology, you know, training, getting people making music. Is food going to figure in the future for you?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna quote Mamila. This is who we are now. So we should go to different communities, but we have one community the last 6 years. And one of the things that I have, and I have shared this before, is the identity or the identity part. So the community where we work, coconuts and tamarindo. So and then grow different things that they are talk about are. So now what are we gonna do with that we produce? Because it's food. Look, I saw another project that you have to meet. It's called the Patojos in Guatemala. It's a crazy school. They take care of everything from the food, education, the exercise, so a lot of things, because they battle the chronic, ¿cómo que se dice? Chronic desnutrition. It's when you are, it's not just about the food, the services that a person needs to be able to be happy, I don't know, to produce. And yes, so now the food, it's one of the things that I'm willing to develop as far as I can.
Yeah,
we I don't know, a lot of things with the coconuts and the tamarins. It's our identity. It's who we are. It's what we eat. So now the people needs to know. You need to taste and that's why I identify with Adrian too. I don't know. It's gonna be developed.
It's
Food part is gonna be developed.
What you guys, for me, have always done is respond to what is going on in your community, because you're in the community. In the English word, I guess, is grassroots, but it doesn't necessarily translate. But you are in the fabric of your communities, and you're just building the responses of what people want, and that changes over time, and that changes with here. All these words I wrote down in the beginning, what you guys have been dealing with is not just one global health crisis, but the consequences of that, which are layers and layers of, you know, poverty, the state, etc., etc. Adrian talked really brilliantly about how his project has sort of led him on this journey to receive much bigger funding. And I just want to, I think, just to finish, I'm going to ask you all to do a reflection right in the end. So just really briefly for Valeria and Shadi to talk about sort of what next. You know, I know that Valeria, you're not in a lockdown at the moment, but how do you see things going for yourself and Elemento Ilegal over the next year?
Okay. So I'm actually going to answer having involved the last question that you made in regards of the food, because it's very aligned with what is coming next for Elemento Ilegal. So we definitely plan to reactivate our activities, but more so that we now have a specific space. It's not only from Elemento Ilegal, is when we have participation along with the community, that it's called in Spanish Huerta Escuela. And this is one of the biggest you know, the biggest challenges that we have right now, because in the translation that I would provide in English would be vegetable garden school. And basically what we want to do is to involve this ancient knowledge of the Mrs. and the Misters, elders of the community, to bring this knowledge that they have on how to seed and how to have food grown and how to bake this specific food. So this is something that it's coming for Elemento Ilegal, working too hard in this, because basically it's a way to keep working in, and as I said before, in dignity and resistance in front of that city that it's so hostile, like Medellin sometimes, that tends to be so hostile. So definitely it's one of the biggest things that comes to us, working in our vegetable garden school, having kids involved, have all the community involved, and definitely we are going to share the work that we will have and the amazing results that we will have, because it's a beautiful project. It's an inspiring project that it's making a lot of people working in too happy and giving a lot of hope to all of us.
Amazing, incredible, so inspiring. And then just finally, I'm gonna ask you all to do a reflection on a positive to come out of the current time. But before we do, Shadi, how are things for you over the next year, do you think?
In the next year, we have 3 priorities. The first priority will work on increasing the courses, art trainings in our cultural center, because especially now we will have more lockdown, and there are plenty of time for the unemployed youth and the youth that they have hobbies regarding the art. So we will focus on some art trainings such rap and other type of courses in our cultural center. At the same time, we will work on local development due to COVID-19, to work with municipalities and local governments on increasing awareness, and at the same time providing basic services in their areas, especially that now with the lockdown and with the economic crisis, the people will request more basic services, which will give more power for the local government to implement the law on the ground for the prevention of COVID-19. The third objective is working in Beirut on the Beirut blast issues, especially on now currently on the, and in the next year on the rehabilitation and reconstruction, and at the same time working on psychosocial support, especially for the young and the elderly people who faced some psycho issues due to the Beirut blast.
Amazing, incredible. It's been so inspiring to hear from all of you. I have a few messages here in the chat. Someone called Anton Nigel Acosta Alexis saying hello to Camilo, I believe, and a greetings from Trinidad. Yeah, so just before we finish, I want to round up. We've just got a couple of minutes left. Just really briefly, a sentence from each of you. What positive has come out of the current time? And this was a question that was from Manchester participant in this. What is one positive that you could say has come out of this kind of very, very challenging time? I'm going to start with, who's ready? Adrian.
Okay, as I said, and very briefly, it has been breaking the mental barriers, or the thing that stop us from believing we can do different things, or just expand what we do, or do it better, or do it bigger. We can already do that, and this group and you in Place of War, all team are inspiration for that.
Gracias, Adrian. Okay, who's next? Anyone? Okay, Camilo, one positive.
Okay, I think it's the opportunity to realize, another time realize, only together we can face it, that kind of problem, you know. I think in individual way is not the way to face that and face the life in the tough world we live in now. So we must to begin, giving or get stronger that kind of network and another network, and believe what we doing, and start to accompany the other process of the other countries, because we have a thousand of kilometers now about us, but we are facing a very difficult times, and I think the only, like I said, the only way to face it is together. So I think for me is the most important thing now.
Hagámoslo juntos, right? En español. I have it tattooed on my back from when I was in Medellin. So I know this saying, right? And I have Tiuna El Fuerte tattooed on my arm. And basically you guys in tattoo form. Okay, Valeria.
Okay, so I would say we will keep working together to never face the world in loneliness, creating bridges, working together, and definitely building together. So never face the world in loneliness.
Beautiful. Thank you, Valeria. Mambilla.
Okay, yeah, I was also going to mention that we've been forced to actually, what's the word? Collaboration before has only been just a word that we throw out to look cool on social media and everything. But when you're actually forced with the real situation of, survival, you look your next, your next artists, your next partner in an actual war, and to make it through. And so there's been a lot of that, there's been a lot of collaboration happening, and it's really great to see. But above all of that, I think at this point, it's just kind of like that eureka moment for us, where we're like, here's a way to carry ourselves, with in a very sustainable fashion. We are now more, better equipped, I think, and that has definitely been a positive that has come out.
Fantastic. I'm getting messages from our team saying we're slightly over, so I'm going to go to David and Shadi just really, really quickly. One positive that you've taken from this.
Okay. Well, the thing that I always think is when I got into the group, into the Changemaker group, and I saw so many people resistance. Damn, that blew my mind, and it doesn't make me feel alone, as Valeria says. So that's for me was the blowing on point, realizing that it's so many people working on their communities. Fuck them. We are working in resistance, so that makes me happy. That's my comment.
I'm going to cry. So it's amazing. I'm so glad we did it. Shadi.
One of the best issue is having this networking and this one-word communication within change makers, because this will give the power for each of us to resist against the COVID and against all the economic and social problems all around the world. So we will win together.
Okay, so we've come to the end. Thank you all for those comments. Absolutely amazing. My positive to take away from this is the fact that we get to do this and that we've done this every week in lockdown. We've come together, and you guys, you have no idea how much you've inspired me. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I also want to thank our team who are not visible. Raul from Caracas in Venezuela, translating into Spanish. Bobby, who pulls everything together and is just amazing. And our tech team, thank you, our female wizard tech team. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in the next session. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Hey, guys, just want to invite you. Tomorrow is the Congress of Violence in a School. It's the World Congress about violence on schools. And we're going to be talking about the therapeutic beat making and about the hip hop therapy with JC Hall from New York and Elliot Gunn from Oakland. So I invite you guys. It's going to be 9 p.m. my time. That's everything I want to say. Hip hop works.